2 days ago, I was driving and I was east Nashville and I started to feel sick, kind of nauseous, and I pulled over into a parking lot just to rest a little bit. This came out of the blue. I really wasn't thinking of anything stressful. There's nothing on my mind. I wasn't panicked about anything. I also started to feel a strange sort of a tingling sensation in my eyelids and my mouth. This might sound very strange, but I don't know how else to describe it. My mouth almost felt like pins and needles, like when your hands and feet fall asleep, and my mouth was kind of puckering up involuntarily. Well, this is already pretty freaky, but everyone who knows me could predict that I decided that I just needed to power through it because I needed to get to work. I needed to get to the studio. So I tried to power through it. Pulled the seat back up, turned the key, started driving, and I felt really off. So I had the presence of mind, luckily, to not get on the freeway. I was about to get on the freeway, but something felt very wrong, and I realized, holy crap, something is actually wrong with me right now. And so I didn't go on the freeway, and I went under the overpass, and already my hands were... The only way I can describe it is my muscles were seizing up, kind of. In fact, I can even show you. This was happening. And it was terrifying because I felt this weird pins and needles sensation, and my hands were seizing up at the same time while I was driving. And my mouth felt contorted and my eyes felt contorted. So luckily I found a neighborhood and I pulled over and I got off and I put the car in park, and I was freaking out because I'm a drummer, and so I was having this existential crisis with my hands, and then my feet started to seize up as well. This pins and needles feeling happening through my whole body. And I was sweating and I felt very scared, and I have had a pretty clean medical history. I haven't really had a whole lot happen to me despite how crazy a life I've led. So I didn't know what this was. The jury was out. I didn't know if it was a seizure or if this was COVID-19 related. I had no idea. So in my sort of delirium, I pulled out my phone, and while I was kind of contorted like this, I knew I had to call my wife, Tara. And it took me a minute, but I finally got to call her. And I had her on speakerphone, and she instantly knew something was wrong because she said my speech was slurring and I was really out of it. And she said, okay, the only thing I need you to do is drop me a pin, because I had pulled off kind of in the middle of nowhere. And the scary thing is I had to drop her a pin on Google Maps. Otherwise she didn't know where I was. So I was trying to I was using my knuckle. I felt so weird. I felt so pathetic, trying to drop a pin. I finally got it dropped. And she said, okay, I'm going to call 911 and I'm going to come get you. I had no idea what was going on. Soon the fire truck showed up and the ambulance showed up, and they came and opened the door. And the instant they opened the door, I looked up at them and I said, I'm supposed to be the strong one. I'm supposed to be the person that helps everybody else. I'm not supposed to be in this position. And they kind of looked at me and said, well, bud, you are in this position. So they took my vitals and they checked me out, and they said, this looks like an anxiety attack or a panic attack or something. Have you ever had one before? And I said, no, I've never experienced anything like that. They said, well, since you're lucid and you can think for yourself, do you want to go to the hospital? What do you want? I said, well, I've never had anything like this happen to me before, and I'm scared, so yeah, let's go to the hospital. Let's just do it. And then the next scary thing is they said, well, let's try to walk. Can you walk to the ambulance? I tried to get up out of the car and walk, and my feet and legs crumbled underneath me. It was very hard being a strong 36-year-old man who's always felt competent, like I could take on anything, and have my feet and legs crumble underneath me when I try to get out of a car. They said, okay, we're going to get you a stretcher. So they were awesome. They very carefully got me onto a stretcher, and I was cracking jokes the whole time because I was just trying to get out of how terrified I was. Ambulance took me to the hospital, and my wife Tara met me there. The nurse and the doctor were amazing. Great people, very insightful. We did all the neurological tests where I grabbed his fingers and I flexed all my foot muscles and stuff. At that point, all the pins and needles and the seizing up of my hands had kind of subsided, although the sensation was still kind of there. And then they took a blood test and they put an IV in me just in case they needed to give me some kind of medication. And we waited for a while, and the doctor made some great conversation and made some good observations. Well, the blood test came back fine, and my neurological test was fine. So he kind of shut the door and the curtains, and he said, look, according to your blood and your neurological test, you're strong as an ox. So not even doctor to patient, but man to man, this isn't really like something that happened with your body, other than maybe your brain is telling you that you're overwhelmed. Maybe you're stressed. Maybe there's something going on. He said, I work in a high stress situation every day. I have a high stress job, and I have a therapist. I have a life coach. He said, so I don't want to just diagnose something, but he said, I'd rather not just send you home with medication for this because, I think your brain is trying to tell you something here. He said, when people have anxiety attacks, they go through all kinds of things. There's thousands of symptoms of panic attacks and anxiety attacks. So there's really no way to tell exactly what it is or what happened to you. He said, but as of right now, you're physically okay. So what do you think? Well, I think he's right. And it was a big sort of come to Jesus moment for me. And I said, well, I think I should just go home and think about how to pour my energy into other things and think about what you said. So we did. And interestingly enough, of course, I was like, I told my wife, Tara, I said, I'll drive the other car home. You drive, the orange car home. And she said, no, I don't think you should drive. You just barely had this crazy thing happen. And of course I insisted. And I said, no, I'm fine. I feel much better, which I did. Well, halfway through the drive home, it happened again. And I had to admit to myself that I really wasn't okay. And that's rare for me, but I wasn't okay. I pulled off instantly, pulled off into like a Walmart parking lot, got into the car with her, and the same thing was happening. My hands were seizing up like this, and my feet felt weird, and I felt that sensation with my mouth and my eyes. It was an awful feeling. I felt that way until we got home. I limped into my house and got in bed and just shuddered there for a while. I felt so helpless and embarrassed, and eventually I did feel better. Well, the next morning, yesterday morning, I woke up and felt fine, but very confused about what had happened to me the day before. And I had a lot of time to think yesterday. Tara said, you have to take time off. You have to just do nothing today. Just completely alleviate yourself of all of the responsibilities and things you've had lately. And she was right. I did. And in my contemplation yesterday, thinking about what had happened to me the day before, considering it had never happened to me prior to this, I realized something, and that's that, if I'm a 36-year-old man, and when that happened, that must be sort of the amalgamation of all the stresses and things that happen in one's life. And it got me thinking, what creates a person? What sculpts a person's situation? What delivers the person that I see across from me into the hands of the viewer? And everybody has that story. Everybody. No one escapes it. You're 36 years old, you're 25 years old, you're 15 years old, you're 80 years old. Think about how much has happened in your life to shape you and sculpt you. So it got me thinking about all the things that have sculpted me, the good and the bad, because it all matters. And so I'm going to share some stories with you guys because I'm trying to get to the bottom of who I am and what sculpted me. Yeah, I'm going to get to the bottom of that. I'm going to tell you guys some stories.